the judgment for what they cost you, and then you get the judgment for that's basically the punishment for their actions.
But that would be, what about the criminal side of it?
Defamation is not criminal.
Yeah.
Right, but the harassment.
You would have to file a police report. You would have to, that is what, so as far as the harassment and all that stuff goes, that is where your receipts, if you will, come into play to prove that you have been harassed. And harassment by communication is absolutely a criminal offense.
There's already been a few police reports made. I would like to talk with you off of here, though, because I don't want to give away my cards anymore.
Yeah, no, the thing though, like what people don't understand is if you're getting harassed, right? And you go and you call the police and they come out to you and you file a report and they write it all down and they file a report. That's where it fucking stays until you follow through.
Right, and you're talking.
You cannot leave it up to the police department that comes out and makes the report. You have to contact your DA, your county, state prosecutor. You have to do the actual legwork to get them on the case and get them to prosecute.
Yeah, I've learned very, very much. Like I said, the officer I've talked to the past few months, I've had some other stuff going on, which off of the app, I'll tell you. So I haven't even been able to sink as much time into this, but he's been working with me. He's got the report made.
And here's the thing that most people don't know or don't understand is that if you're being harassed, right? If you're being contacted, harassment by communication, it doesn't matter. If someone calls you and doesn't say a word, all they have to do is call you and be on the phone. As long as you say, do not contact me again, and they contact you again, and they don't have to say a word to you, that is harassment by communication.
See, and I've got several of them. Even acknowledged. I made a video, said, "Leave me the hell alone. Don't contact me again."
Yeah, if you have evidence that you have told them not to contact you any further.
I have evidence that some of them have seen it.
Right, and then they have. That is harassment by communication. And it doesn't matter if it's on the phone, if it's through text message, if it's on the internet, it doesn't matter.
I was reluctant to file another case because of how the first one went.
I'm going to go, you guys. I got to go to
I
bed.
totally understand. Have a good night,
Good
Donna.
night, swear.
All right, good night. Hey, thanks, Barfly Spotter, for helping out. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Where's my disconnect?
Here, I could do it for you.
Yeah, but you have to stay on your case. You have to continually call them and like, hey, what's the status? What's going on? Like, you have to stay on it.
Yeah.
And it's a pain in the ass. It really is. But you have to.
Well, and I didn't have the time before, but I have the time now.
Yeah. I mean, if you feel like your personal safety or your livelihood or any of that is in actual danger, you have to stay on it. Because what will happen is if you get, let's say, just for example, right? You get bombarded and then you file a report and then you just let it go. And because they get wind of that you filed a report and they stop, right? And then 3 months later, they're like, oh, well, nothing's happened. Let's go fucking again. And they bombard you again. And then, a couple months later, you're like, oh, you know what? It's time. I'm going to file charges, whatever, whatever. What the judge is going to do is going to be like, why didn't you follow through from the very fucking beginning? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be consistent with it. And it's a pain in the ass and it's time consuming and all that stuff, but you have to stay with it, especially on the criminal side of it.
Yeah. Like I said, I really, like I'm biting my tongue right now because there's so much to it that I do not want to say on here because, like I said, right now I'm holding a lot of cards. And I only let them know what I want them to know. But
well, I will tell you this, and I know people don't like to hear it, and this is the worst part of my career, but I can guarantee you half of the shit that you have, even though it is so damning on the other side, is going to be irrelevant in the court of law.
Yeah, and see, that's why, yeah. Like I said, I'll talk with you off of here, but yes, I know what you're saying.
And I'm just speaking in general terms, like, because
I will say this though, there was a few things when I had the officer here. There's a few things that it was like he batted his eyes at, and he's like, "I need that. I need a copy of that. I need a copy of that," because there have been actual unaliving threats made towards me on TikTok lives. And
and if you're being threatened like that,
simultaneously with that same person calling me the F slur.
No, that's what I'm saying. If you're being threatened in that manner, that is absolutely a criminal offense.
And these are friends of the big creator that says that there's 40 victims. It's 40 of her friends that have been coming after me, and I stood up for myself, and I fired back at them. But these are the people that are literally like, they've made unaliving threats to me. I haven't done that to them. They make the most craziest claims to get people against me because they want people to believe their stories, and they want people to believe that I'm evil so that people won't listen to me. So they basically collaborate these stories. But now we're talking about in a court of law. No court of law is going to care about that.
No, they're not.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what most people don't understand is the court of law. Like,
but these big
the he said, she said, back and forth. Oh,
these big
the court of law doesn't fucking care about that.
Exactly. These big creators do know that. That's why they do this to people. That's why they do this to people, because they know they can get away with it.
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, is the app worth it? Because that's what I was trying to explain to Ona. Like, Ona wants me to send all this information to her, and I'm like, for what? Because at the end of the day, is the app really worth it?
I will tell you this, and this is from a legal professional standpoint. Any information, evidence, whatever you want to call it, that you have, do not send it or give it to anyone but your own personal attorney that you have retained.
Okay. Can I ask you kind of along that line where, people say don't talk to the news, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Can I ask you another question on a different subject, but from a legal aspect?
I mean, sure. I mean, if it's a general question, yeah.
Well, I mean, kind of. I
can't give you
I'm not looking
personalized legal advice.
Right. I'm not looking for that, but
okay.
It's more of a general question because, like, I see this done a lot where attorneys. So the example I'm going to use is my best friend, my best friend James, who was unalived by a police officer in 2012. 3 weeks after Trayvon Martin was when there was issues going on in Florida with tasers, with officers unaliving people that were unarmed and not committing any crimes and things like that. Mm-hmm. He was one of them. He was not committing any crime. The officer that unalived him was a Department of Environmental Protection officer who was there to protect the wildlife, the birds, the things, and he decided that he was going to kill an F slur on St. Patrick's Day in front of other people for no crime committed. And the family was told very quickly by the attorneys not to speak with the news stations, not to speak with anybody. And the family made it very clear in the beginning that they just wanted this officer arrested. right? But the attorney said, well, let's do the civil suit first, because they basically used OJ as an example. If you do the criminal suit first and he gets away with it, you can't retry on unaliving on a M word. There's only one time, so if you get the civil case put through first, then it makes the criminal case stronger, which I understood that, right? But they tell the family not to speak with the news. And what I saw is that when the news actually blows up situations and there's a public outcry, you're more likely to win your case when there's a public outcry. That's what I've just...
Yeah, and that is called a court of public opinion.
What is?
When the families of a victim go in front of the media and do their story
It's called what?
before the trial, before the criminal trial, right?
Right.
That creates what is called the public opinion.
Right. So why would the attorneys tell the family not to speak with the press? Because I feel like, one, that hurt their case more, and then the attorneys ended up having a gag order.
Because the attorneys and the prosecutors, both sides of the aisle, right, want to get a jury pool that is unbiased, that will be in the courtroom and hear the facts as they're presented and make a decision on that. If that jury pool has been exposed to the local media with the family boo-hooing and whatever, then they are unknowingly, most of the time, biased. That is why they do that.
So, but what blew my mind is that the attorneys suggested that the family sign a gag order, which they ended up taking a gag order with a financial settlement outside of the courtroom. I feel like after it was years, I feel like it was 2-3 years, and I feel like they just wore his mother down to where...
Well, the sad reality of it is, if the family took a financial settlement, then it's done.
Yep. Now the criminal suit, right? Because the criminal suit really, the strongest criminal suit is if the family brings it forward, right? But they took a gag order, so now they can't.
Well, it's not up to the victim or the victim's family or anything like that to bring criminal charges. That is up to the DA.
Right. The Florida's attorneys, the state attorneys and the district attorneys.
Yeah, the prosecutor. The prosecutor is the one who decides to bring charges or not.
Right. But the family could present charges. Couldn't they?
No, that's not how that works.
They can't. The family can't present charges or try to...
Not criminal, no.
But so couldn't the family get a public outcry afterwards if they didn't take a settlement?
That would be civil.
How would you get the case reopened and get the sheriff's department to press charges? Because I tried before I got on TikTok by just talking with the sheriff's department, the internal investigation at Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, of course, Florida. But I tried, and he was working with me for about 2.5-3 months, and then I hit a dead end. And he basically called me back one day and said there was nothing that he could do. And
he was placating you
for 3 months, 2.5-3 months.
He was placating you
for 2.5-3 months. Mm-hmm. They would really do that.
Yeah, absolutely. They do it all the time. If the case has been tried.
It hasn't been tried criminally.
Hear me out. If the case has been tried. So in your situation, what came first, the criminal or the civil suit?
There's only been a civil suit. There's never been a criminal suit.
Okay. And how long has it been since the offense occurred?
2012. But from what I understand, there's no statute of limitations for M word, and there's no statute of limitations for the M word, murder.
Okay.
And
So then the question that I would be asking is, why has it not gone to criminal court?
so Bernie McCabe, at the time, was the state attorney, and he deemed it a justified homicide.
Okay, so it was never going to go to criminal court.
They didn't want it to. Florida didn't want it to
Yeah. No,
because it would have
I
been,
know. I'm just
it
saying
would have
that's
been punishing a officer, and he already got fired, and he wanted to
so in
become a
their
cop.
mind it was already settled.
Right, but the officer basically he was only fired, and he reapplied somewhere else, and he got a better job.
Well, that happens all the time, unfortunately.
I know it does. I know it does, and that's what's so perverted and gross about our country. I know it does. I know it does. The only way to really get anything to happen about to even it would be a public outcry, wouldn't it?
That's
To
about
put
50
pressure
50.
to put pressure on the sheriff's department to actually try him.
I mean, it happens. It does. But it takes a national outcry.
Yeah, it would take a big outcry. Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, we've seen other people. I know. All I can hope for at this point is that he has a boating accident.
Bless it.
I mean, because he's a Marine Patrol now. He went from being a Department of Environmental Protection officer who unalived one of the kindest people that I know, who was he was doing a spiritual baptism and having a very emotional moment because of the guy that he dated after me, who was mentioned in the newspaper.
Yeah, but baby, listen to me, please.
I,
None of that matters in a court of law.
I know.
And that is absolutely sad and unfortunate and could absolutely change a lot of
So
cases.
I guess really at this point, then, I just want to make everybody aware of who this officer is and make him famous for being a F slur killer.
I mean, from what you're telling me as far as the cases go, that's really all you've got right now. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but
Yeah, no, I mean, sadly, I already knew this.
yeah,
I was just more curious, like, why do the attorneys operate like that? Because it
because they're
frustrates.
paid too.
Yeah, I know, and it's like, are some of them in bed with the friggin' sheriff's department? Because I really felt like this one
Oh,
one
absolutely.
was because I felt
If
like
you
they
don't think
swooped in.
all those motherfuckers go and play golf together on
I
Sundays,
swear they do because it seemed like this attorney swooped in very quickly, and I was like, "No, you need attention on this. You need attention on this right now to get a If you really care about the criminal suit and not the civil suit, you need a public outcry on this."
well, I will tell you this. So you can absolutely file a civil suit based on a criminal suit, right? So if someone's convicted in court of law, whatever, then the victim's families, whatever, can go and file a civil suit, right?
Right?
But to file the civil suit and then the criminal
online. These trolls, how disgusting they are, have reached out to the family more than once, and of the victim.
I mean, that's just fucking shameful.
Well,
But
they've made videos of the victim singing and with the officer who took him out of this world and myself just to get back at me. This is how gross and disgusting these people are. But they want to point out the things that I did back to them. With things that I did back, at a time I would sink down almost to their level, and they focus on that.
well, let me ask you this, Joe.
Yeah.
Does anything that you may or may not have done in your past correlate with your friend's circumstances?
What do you mean? Correlate with it? Like,
Causation.
you mean did I do something after that because of that?
No, I mean, did anything that you may or may not have done in your past have any correlation to your friend's demise?
No. The only thing that I ever felt guilty of was breaking up for him, because if I didn't break up with him, he would have never met this other guy that got him upset and caused him to go to the beach that day. That's what I felt guilty of, because we did have a good
Baby,
relationship.
that's not your fault.
I know it's not.
How would you have known?
No, believe me, I know it. I know it's not. But I mean, we did have, of course, like when you lose somebody that's so close to you, you think about all kinds of stuff, right? And that was one of the things that went through my head at one time. And I've already gone to therapy about that. I mean, we're talking, my friend was unalived in 2012. That was 12 years ago. It's almost 13 years ago that he was unalived. So believe me, I've already dealt with that. But I mean, we had a good relationship. There were some things that happened. Our relationship started very quick. Like we met from one of those old, like I think it was like The Advocate, the Men for Men advertisements in the newspapers, and then you call and you talk to the person, and then you meet out in public, like the old school days that gay men had to meet that way.
Right? Before Tinder or Grindr or whatever it is.
Before any internet, well before any
Yeah.
internet. We're talking like he and I met in 1994, in the summer of 1994, when, long time ago in Tampa. And yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago, but I'm an old fart. But anyway, he and I met and we started dating. We like went on the first date and we agreed to go on a second date and the third date, and we just started dating. We basically dated for like 5.5 years, I think. And then we broke up in 1999. I think it was the beginning of 1999. And we were still living together. It was me, him, and his dad. We had a 3-bedroom house. His dad had terminal cancer and was living with us. And we had a 3-bedroom house. And we each, when we broke up, we just each had our own bedroom. But when we were still living together, we were cordial with each other. We were still friends. We definitely went through a period of time where we had difficulties from being broken up and being, moving into, we didn't just go from breaking up right into friendship. We had that, a few months of just like not liking each other, but we had so many of the same friends. We had like pretty much built our friend group together because we had both moved to Florida around the same time and kind of met within the first 1.5 to 2 years of being in Florida, and built that friend base. So it was almost impossible for us to not stay friends, if you know what I mean. So we ended up like eventually, like our friends were like, you guys got to talk, you got to work this out, you got to be friends. So we made friends.
Yeah, well, you melded your lives together, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and he went on to date somebody else, and I went on to date somebody else too. And he dated this guy that was like 10 years older than him, I think. And the guy he dated after me, he dated somebody that was like 10 years older than him. And that guy got him hooked on some things that, unfortunately, he went through a period of time where he had some issues with, addiction issues and stuff like that. I mean, I remember his mom calling me up when I lived in Fort Myers, and he was in the Fort Lauderdale area after he broke up with this guy. And his mom was wanting me to find him. I'm like, I have no idea where he is right now. He moved out of Mario's house. I don't know where he's staying. He's binging. I can't talk with him. He won't talk with me. Fort Lauderdale's a big area. I have no idea where to even begin. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's 2.5 hours on the other side of the state, and I wouldn't know where to begin. I can't just drop everything right now. I'm working. I didn't know how to help her. I felt so horrible. But he pulled himself out of that. He moved back home. He cleaned himself up. He maintained a good life. And, of course, the time I'm talking about when I lived in Fort Myers and he broke up with that guy, he eventually went back to him. And they were together for several more years before he left again and left for good. And then he moved back up closer to his family. I think at that point I was moved back to Tampa. I moved back from Fort Myers back to Tampa, and he was like my dog sitter whenever I would go anywhere, because he always had a roommate, and it usually was somebody in his family. And he would just come and stay at my house, take care of my fish, my dogs, and he would have the place to himself whenever I would travel. He was truly my best friend, and we stayed best friends after I left Florida, moved to Alaska, moved back to Connecticut. And I happened to be calling him the day that he was unalived. I called him when he had already, I guess it had already happened when I had called him. And I didn't know, but I was just calling to talk with him, and I got his voicemail. And like, not unbeknownst to me, that this crap had already happened at the beach. And his aunt called me back shortly after that. And I was already on the phone. I was traveling at the time from Boston back to Connecticut, and called another friend and was on the phone with them. So when I saw the call come through, I just let it go to voicemail. I said, I'll call James back. I got the voicemail, and it was his aunt saying, call me. I have James's phone. I could tell you everything that happened. And I'm like, I don't know what happened. What the fuck?
Right.
So I call her, and she tells me everything blow by blow. Now, there are people on the internet that try to put me in Mario's shoes. Their friends have posted proof that's already shown it wasn't me, it was him. For years, they tried to blame me for his unaliving. Some of them still do, because they haven't caught up to their friends yet that are saying, don't talk about that. We fucked up.
I mean, you gotta think, I know, but you gotta think about it this way. Anytime something tragic happens to a person, right? They absolutely need a target for their anger and frustration and all that stuff. And unfortunately, it sounds like that target was you.
Yeah, and they're trying to make me a target again because I speak about what they've done, and they don't like that.
Yeah.
This app is honestly, it feels like this app has just gone to shit.
Oh, don't I agree?
I mean, I'm trying to think to myself, I'm like, when was the last time that I really felt like this app was entertaining on the way that it was when I first joined? When I first joined, I remember people like Granny Coy Bundy, God, her name was Little Baby JoJo. I can't find her anywhere. Just, I remember all these very entertaining people. They were artists. And then there was a few people that would pop up, literally some of the people that are coming after me right now and some of their friends. They would pop up on my FYB too. And they would be like more of the social advocate stuff, right? And you'd watch them and you're like, wow, these are really well-spoken people. They really, like, no matter which one of them are, they really have the ability to sell their story to an audience and make it seem like they are doing a lot of good, blah, blah, blah. And this is who TikTok pushes forward. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here still to this day thinking to myself, like, why would this big app push forward people that they never vetted, people with criminal backgrounds of fraud and child
Money.
baby use?
Because drama brings money.
Right. And so more and more lately, and Charles even knows, in fact, Charles, I gave him permission to share something before he logged off. I don't think he was intending on logging off. I think, like, I haven't gotten to speak with him much, but I really don't think he was intending on logging off, because he had just asked me for permission to share something that I had shared with him in a private message, a voice message and text. And I said, yes, no problem. And the very next day he logged off.
Yeah.
But I mean, this app, more and more, part of what I was saying was, this app more and more shows us who we are and shows what it's about. But what I feel like Ona's been trying to do with the fandom and all this stuff is, I feel like, whether she's intentionally done this or not, but she's caused a lot of us to, if we will, take the time to sit back and look at ourselves and what we're feeding into it, because it's not just entertainment anymore. It's entertainment of real people's lives, and we've turned it into a reality TV show, which is kind of how we've ended up where we are in a lot of ways, even with our 2024 presidential candidate or electee or whatever the hell. We're literally.
Well, I tend to look at it like,
reality shows.
see, I tend to look at things from a cynical, legal lens, which has conditioned or trained me, whatever term you want to call it, to absolutely take your own emotions out of the situation. When you can take your emotion out of the situation and see it for what it is, and especially in like the legal realm, because what a lot of people don't understand is, and that's what I was trying to say in the chat earlier, is just because somebody's like, oh, well, that's not right, you should be able to do this and this and this, that's not necessarily how the court of law works. So I tend to look at it from that lens, if that makes sense. And I also play devil's advocate a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate devil's advocate.
I mean,
Are you on IG by any chance?
no.
Shoot. I will DM you on here. Yeah. I just don't I don't think this app is really worth it anymore.
I mean, I agree.
I mean, there's the thing that sinks is like, there's really people that I've met on this app, right? And I
Well,
think that,
honestly, this app has turned into Facebook.
no, it's worse than Facebook. Facebook was, so I don't know for you, but for me, Facebook was private. It was friends, family, coworkers, high school people, things like that. It was never a public thing for me.
Yeah, but if you remember, what was it,
MySpace.
3 years ago, something like that, where all the younger than us generation was like, oh, Facebook's for old people.
That was more
Right?
than, yeah, that's been going on for more than 2 or 3 years, sadly.
Well, I like to, make myself a little younger than I really am sometimes.
I feel younger than I am.
But, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, because first it was MySpace, and then all the drama started, and people started moving over to Facebook, right?
Yep.
And then the drama started, and people started moving over to Musically, as it were.
Yeah, I didn't ever come on here for Musically.
Oh no, that's the thing. Like, I downloaded it when it was Musically, and I'm like, this is dumb.
I never even heard of Musically. I didn't hear of TikTok until 2020.
No, like, I downloaded it when it was, I think it was like 2017, when it was still Musically. And then that was when it was all people like posting and duetting, like the lip syncing and all that stuff. And I was like, this is dumb as shit.
You know what? Here's what it is that we fed into the people that TikTok was pushing to us, whether it be the drama creators or the artist stuff. We got hooked on the reality TV shit. The people that nobody ever vetted, but they're playing the parts of news anchors essentially out here on TikTok, but they're really criminals and felons and things like that behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like, that's not all of them, but that is some of them. And when Charles said that he was referring to that certain creator and her crew, that is very true. That is very true. When he said that he was sorry for calling AFF a bunch of criminals and things like that, but that was his experience with this other creator, anybody that looks into the background of that creator and those other people that hang out with that creator, a lot of those,
Oh, it's absolutely true.
it's very much true. Their records speak for themselves, and they don't really speak about their records because they don't take full accountability for the records. They want to blast out everybody else's, and they want to hold everybody else accountable and point everybody else to be the villains because they're taking attention off of themselves.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't have any crap like that. Like, even the shit that they talk about from 2000 with the guy that I dated after James, I've talked about that shit. I admit that shit. I'm also like, hey, there's also no charges from that shit. The judge also said and granted both of those no contact orders and said, okay,
Yeah.
you stay away from him, you stay away from him. But they also know that I filed first and he filed in retaliation. So
And see, and anybody that has any legal or court training or whatever, like it could be anywhere from the judge's secretary to the receptionist, paralegals, file clerks, like it doesn't matter. If you've had any dealings with the court system at all, you know that when they're like, okay, you stay away from you stay away from you, that means, hey, we just don't want to fucking deal with it. Y'all, like, just fucking stay away from each other.
Yep. And with the case with me and this other person, they were from Florida, and this big creator was also from Florida, the one that filed against me after that. And the judge, like, basically they're saying, hey, they don't here's the weird part though. They don't look at the cyber part of things. I will say
No,
that,
they don't.
but on the same token, the person that filed against me, the judge basically said, hey, are you saying that, it's your testimony that the charges he's saying that you have are not true? Because he had her record right there. So that would have been what, perjury?
Well, I will tell you this, and just keep this in mind for future reference, okay? Other than actual criminal law, right? So anything outside of criminal law, it is a court of equity, which means that the person who files first and makes claims first is believed. So the person that they are filing claims against has the burden to prove or disprove their claims.
Well, I didn't even have to.
Whereas in a criminal case, it is proven innocent. I mean, it's innocent until proven guilty, right? Anything outside of criminal case is the exact opposite.
I didn't even have to testify.
Yeah.
She was filing against me, and I didn't even have to testify because she had to prove her case, that she had to prove that I was guilty of what she was claiming.
Yeah.
And the judge said, there's no evidence here, case dismissed.
Well, you got a really good judge.
Yeah, the one in Florida that she had for her case, I feel like he was a good judge. The one that I had here in Washington, quite honestly, I don't feel that she was good because she didn't even consider the evidence. And, she also, I feel, I don't know. So I got a question.